Hi, everybody, and welcome to In Her Words. We have an interesting guest today, Emelia Hartford. She's an actress, a race car driver, and a custom car builder. She has over 4 million followers on her social platforms who watch her rebuild cars and work on engines. You know her from Gran Turismo, and we had a great time getting to know her. We think you're going to love this episode. Amelia, thank you so much for joining us. I'm looking at the graphics behind you on the wall. Those are so
Oh.
cool. They're all tracks, right?
Yeah, the racetracks, yeah, across the world. That one's Laguna Seca, that one's Indianapolis. Of course, the two U.S. ones I got right behind my head, but I've got all over the place. I don't know
Oh my
which.
God, those are amazing. That's so cool.
Thank you.
Oh, so for our audience at Women in Entertainment, we love to hear stories. You often hear stories of projects and things that are happening now. We love for our audience to get a taste of how you got here, what your path was, what your journey was from being baby Amelia behind the wheel to where you are now. So can you share with us, where your love for racing came, how you started, and then how did it evolve to getting in front of the camera? It's so interesting.
Thank you. No, of course. It's kind of a long story, but I'll try to sum it up relatively quickly.
No,
Um,
no, no. Take your time.
I, when I was 15 years old, I lost my dad to suicide, actually. And I, without realizing it at the time, had to grow up really quickly. And one of my first big decisions in life I had to make was what car I was going to buy myself. And I went to the internet, and I realized I was on the racing forums, which are like automotive chat stuff, and they advised that I should get something rear wheel drive, a stick shift bigger than a four cylinder. And I'm like, okay, like I didn't realize I was in the race car forums.
I was like,
But
those 15-year-olds are like, what are my friends driving? What's cool to look at? I mean, wow.
but I listened to the internet and I found this Infinity G35, which I grew to love. And I'd never driven stick a day in my life until I bought that
Yeah.
car. And I go, how hard could it really be? And I completely roasted the clutch on the way home, but I kind of figured it out. And about a month later, my mom, because she was a stay at home mom, she um, broke the news to my younger brother and I that we had to move to Indiana because she couldn't afford the cost of California. So we drove cross country to start fresh in Indiana. And I was intimidated doing this. By then, it would have been my fourth high school already. So I was kind of used to uprooting a little bit and meeting new people. But I loved it so much out there, and I met the car community who became my extended family. And now I say my found family because I feel like, and I know wherever I travel or wherever I go, I have that support system and I have that family. um, but yeah, I then cut to a few years later. I've always wanted to act, and I couldn't turn on the television without feeling guilty that I wasn't pursuing what ultimately I wanted to do. So I eventually packed my little car, drove cross country, and started in Los Angeles, and was a server for 6 years, and um, I bus tables for a while. I worked as a hostess. I did all sorts of odd end jobs as well, and yeah, it wasn't until I'd go to work. I'd work late, and I was doing everything during the day, of course, for to pursue acting, of casting workshops. I went to Samuel French, and I bought like the agents and managers books, and went through all of them that I thought could be a good fit. Created a little packet of like my headshot resume, a little like about me. Would cold mail everyone, and was just going to auditions, doing what I could do, but not getting anywhere. And it was around the same time that I started seeing other servers who were also actors lose roles and opportunities to other actors who had a following on social media. And it was
Oh,
still, at least for me, it was still such a new thing.
Mhm.
Um, and I would always work on my car after hours and after hours when I wasn't working and just tinkering, maintenance, and whatnot. And my mom was actually the one who was like, "Oh, honey, you should start vlogging, putting on YouTube. You're already working on cars." And I was like, "What do you know, mom? Like, YouTube, come on." I always say moms are always right, and I'm really glad I listened to her. And I did my first. I spent every penny in my bank account, not exaggerating, to meet this guy off Craigslist to buy this camera, and I started vlogging. My first video was just walking around my car, talking about the condition of it, and talking about how I was going to rebuild it and learn how to drift in 1 month. And that was 7 years ago. And I continued doing 3 videos a week, and now finally acting coming to fruition. I've slowed down the videos to 1 to 2 a week, but I'm really thankful of you know going from working in my um, apartment complex, getting threatened eviction for changing my oil, to now having a shop of my own, to working with my friends, to have piloted and built the world's fastest new generation Corvette. Um, I should clarify, I don't still hold the record. I don't want to take light away from the incredible team that has since taken it, but I'm just constantly trying to challenge the norm and do projects that I find interesting, that excite me, while also having the opportunity now to audition and do these projects and have the creative freedom to get to do that. Sorry, that was long winded.
No, not at all. That is amazing. I mean, I have so many questions on how, yeah, I mean, how inspirational you have to be for other women and young girls. And I love, I mean, I've seen so many stories. I mean, seeing them on the news, seeing them on the, news magazine stories of women starting garages and women, especially during COVID, women who, had worked. Do you find that that there's a lot of women that you're inspiring, and that even that community, I know the driving community obviously is male dominant, but I feel like there's like women are finding their voice in that space.
Yeah, and it's a really cool thing to see, because I don't like taking any credit for having being any type of influence, and it's a weird thing to think about. But when I started, and even when I was in Indiana tinkering my garage, like, there weren't other girls in our car crew. Like, I was
Right.
looking up to other guys and just trying to be the best person that I could be, regardless of gender. And that's what my norm was. So as I've gotten older, I've realized how important it is to have that influence and be a role model to others, regardless of how like, for me, it's like, how could I be this influence and role model to other people? But it's cool to see the transition um, in the space, because when I started, there weren't many people, women influences, and I believe they were out there. I just don't think that they were maybe getting the same eyes that now social media has been able to provide people. Because 10 years later, I open my phone on Instagram, and I just see so many women working on their car, and it's the coolest thing in the world. And I think it is so awesome, and I hope that spirit continues. And that makes me happy to see.
When you think about like you launched YouTube in 2017. um you know it was almost like nascent in terms of some of the influencer work that was out there. How has that changed for you since you kicked off your YouTube channel?
Yeah, I really just hoped I could pay my rent and get off food stamps.
Yeah.
And I wasn't really expecting it to be this crazy business that it's become today. And when I was growing up, there wasn't a job description of, "Oh, I'm going to be an influencer one day. I'm going to be a
Yeah.
YouTuber," because those platforms didn't exist. Um, so for me, it was kind of this thing that I saw. I was like, "Oh, I can do what I love, and on top of that, I can make a little money to give me that creative freedom, or again, at least pay for the bare necessities." Um,
Yeah.
so I couldn't have imagined in a million years that that's what it would have turned into today, because it wasn't a job, you know.
Since 2017, since you launched it, like how has that culture changed for you, or how has the platform changed in terms of helping you or supporting, you know, your message or your kind of content that you're creating on a weekly basis?
Well, if you go back and watch my very first episode, I was quiet, I was really soft spoken, I was really like camera awkward. And I feel like it's helped me to kind of grow into my own a little bit, and also help with on camera presence and not being um, scared or shy of it. And over the years, the content's shifted from being very vlog based to now being very focused on these are the builds that I'm doing, this is what I'm doing, and how I'm doing it. Um, and documenting more of the racing style that we're doing. Um, but it's also helped me to have this platform as one of the leading women in the space that has helped to give me a space to be able to talk about things that I care about, such as mental health, such as giving me opportunities in acting. And being in this movie called Gran Turismo, which was a dream to be able to blend both these worlds of film and automotive. And it's really opened a lot of doors. And I just hope that I have this gift, I can continue to use it for good and continue to grow and learn from it. Um, because everything I have, I owe it to the people who watch. So I also don't want to let them down.
We love Gran Turismo. I've seen it 4 times.
Have you
It
really?
is, oh my God. It's so much fun and it's so good. And
Thank you.
it's so I want to hear the story of like how did it come how did it come to you, and how how I mean it was thought of it, it was a video game, and but the story behind it and being a true story. And my family, we saw it at theaters, then we've watched it since we had so much fun with it. It was one of the I felt like it was just one of the big fun family movies of the summer. And I think it got not lost, but it just got lost a little bit because of the actor strike.
Yeah.
That you guys couldn't be out there talking about it, and everyone in it is so charming, and it's a true story, and it's done so well. And the racing, and I am not a racing person. It is so good and
Yeah.
so fun. So I'd love to hear, like, how did that come to you, and how was that whole experience for you?
It was a dream come true. And I say they instead of we, but they did an incredible job with it. And it's so realistic and so raw at the same time. Well, yeah, being based on a true story. Um, and I it's funny because around the time I was kind of feeling a little defeated about my acting, because I'm like, what? Like, I'm doing everything. I've been doing everything. It took me 9 years to get my first job. And when Gran Turismo came through, I got an email asking if I would audition for this untitled project. But I was like, oh, it's a car racing um, like movie,
Mhm.
sure. And then I later find out it's Gran Turismo, and I find out I book it, and then I learn I have 2 weeks to pack my stuff and essentially move to Hungary where we shot. And
Oh,
I was on cloud nine the entire time. I'd never felt such peace in my life than being on that set, because it's all I've ever wanted to do. Um, and I learned how I got that audition was one of the producers had um, was a fan of the car building. In the sorry he was, I hate saying fan, that sounds so weird, but he was a huge supporter of everything I was doing, and I didn't know it, and he'd been following me along my path and my journey. And they were looking for actual people in the car space to hopefully bring on the film to also help to promote it and just really keep it grounded and true
mhm.
to the automotive audience. That when I got that project after 9 years, he had seen that I got a chance to act when I was on the carpet. So I guess he had reached out to casting, reached out to me to audition for it. And I guess they loved my audition so much that they ended up casting me for it. And what was supposed to be a really small few line role turned into a larger thing where they asked me to come back and stay for another few weeks, and they wrote me into the ending of the movie. And it was, I when I say it was like a dream come true, it was amazing, and I was just thankful to be there, and happy to help however I could too. Um, so yeah, I was bummed I couldn't promote it in a way that I had wanted to during the time because of the strike. I am a firm
Hmm.
believer though that everything happens for a reason, and I think it's something that I've always just felt. Um, Looking back in my life, I can, and I imagine anyone, you can, if you sit and think about it, you can point the dots to see how you got to where you are today, and I wouldn't change anything.
That's amazing. Now, were all of the other drivers in the movie? They weren't actors that became drivers. They were drivers that became actors.
So in the GT Academy, those were
Uh-huh.
actors. One of the other
Oh, okay.
actresses, um,
Uh-huh.
Lindsay,
Uh,
she was a video game influencer.
okay. Okay.
So I was cars, she was video gaming, which was
Okay.
pretty
Okay.
cool.
Do you ever stunt drive for movies? Have
It's funny. Because I'm at the racetrack all the time, I know so many of the stunt people. And for me, it's not for me. I'm the most respect when it comes to that. And the stunts in that film were absolutely incredible, and it wouldn't have been possible without them. For me, it's not something that I've been as excited about,
hmm,
um, because I love acting, that I want to create a role. I want to dive deep in a character. I want to try to live in the story and make people feel in a different way. And driving is when I'm actually racing, is one of the only times that I can really ever feel present in the moment like I do for acting. And I want to focus on acting. And I
uh-huh.
have the car world already that I'm so grateful for. And I want to continue to grow what I have and then also grow acting. And I just don't think the stunt driving world is for me.
You talked about using your platform and using your voice now that you have this following and you have this success. What how has that been? And you obviously are letting yourself be very vulnerable with what happened to your father and using your voice in that space. Is that Did that come from the very beginning that you wanted to kind of do that, or how did you find that bravery really to talk about your personal life out there versus keeping them separate? That's hard to do.
Yeah, I don't know if I ever really saw it as an option not to share it. Um, when you go through something so traumatic, it's a hard thing. It's a hard thing to go through. And there's a lot of people who, unfortunately, in this world have to go through some pretty terrible things. And it's hard not to feel isolated when awful things happen. And I think for me, I genuinely want the best for people. I don't feel like life is a competition. And when I don't know why, I just, there wasn't really a thought in my head not to do it. When I had the platform, I started vlogging, it was just something that was very natural in a way of just, this is me. I lost my dad. This is how it happened. And this has helped to grow me to where I am today, to where if you're struggling at home, you're not alone. I've been very open about my own struggles with anxiety and depression, and I really don't feel like it's something to be embarrassed of. I just don't think it's talked about enough, so there's a weird stigma associated with it. But like, I found when the conversation gets opened up, most all people are willing to have it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the more I shared, the more I opened up, and the more people um, were thankful that I was talking about it, the more that I was happy too. Like if you never really know what the reaction is going to be. If I start talking about it, people are like, oh, we don't want to hear that, blah blah blah. well, that's just what my truth is. So it doesn't make sense for me not to share it. But I think
Mhm.
when there's such a positive outreach, it's how can I help to do more? And that's how I ended up finding the team over at Alive and Well, which is a nonprofit that I'm on the board of. Um, because for me, it was just all about um, trying to make a difference and an impact and help others, even if I can't be there directly to talk to everyone. Um, at least I'm now able to point to something if anyone's struggling.
No, that's very, it's amazing that you're able to do that, and that you're willing to, willing to do that. What So what's next with your, with your driving, with your acting, with your social outreach? What are you hoping? What are your next? What are we going to see you in, and what are you hoping to see
All
next
right.
or do next?
I do have some things lined up. I wish I could talk about the things because they haven't been announced yet. I'm not able to.
Okay,
On the acting side of things, on the car side of things, I, at the beginning of this year, flew to Japan to go buy one of my dream cars, which was a Nissan R34 GTR. And
but I have
it
to
just
write this down because my sons are going to
I
want
was
to know.
gonna say, I was like, this is like,
Wait, Nissan R34
1999 R34 GTR.
GTR. I have to text this to Brady as soon as we're finished, and he'll go nuts. Okay.
And I had the blessed opportunity to go to Japan to take delivery of this car because there's a 25-year import rule against bringing in cars and these cars specifically. And it's been 25 years. We're in 2024. It's crazy because it feels like just yesterday. Um, but the car is eligible to be brought into the States in March. So I went out there to take delivery for it before I went into its shipping container to come back out here. But it was amazing. I've been to Japan once before, but to go out there, to go to the Nissan headquarters, to go to Tokyo Auto Salon, to pick up this
Uh-huh.
car, I also went snowboarding while I was out there, was so amazing. And then I came home and then I got really sick. And that put me out for a while. So I'm just now starting to get back into the groove of things and kind of it's this is really the week that I'm actually mapping out the different builds that I want to do this year. I'm working on a Camaro right now that actually last night I just finished welding an exhaust for it, and it sounds so good.
Oh
Um,
my God, that's
and
amazing.
I'm just, yeah, I thank you. I'm just constantly trying to challenge myself on what more builds I could do. And as much as I love to plan, I feel like sometimes the cars come to me.
yeah,
And that's when I have a lot of fun with it, when I don't always know what the next project's going to be. Um, Last year, I came across this abandoned Daytona, and the guy hadn't driven it in 5 years. He blew the transmission on it, made an offer, bought it, got it running. He loved it so much that he wanted to buy it back and instead did a trade. So then I got his GT40, which I now have that I've been rebuilding and getting it registered and going through that whole process. And I just found this barn find Plymouth Superbird. If anyone knows what that car is who's listening, it's a crazy car. It's a replica car. Don't get too excited. I was very excited, but after knowing that, I'm like, you know what? I want to continue to do this build, and if build it to what I would love to have. Um, and and yeah, I feel like there's always something new and something that's able to challenge me.
have you found, as it's like cars are kind of like a more male, obviously male dominated, but like as a female, like have you found like more car companies come to you as you've continued to build audience, and like what have brands really been like with you, and what's that experience been? Because I would say that there's only a handful of women who are really making waves and driving publicity as for women in this space, in the auto space.
Pun
Like how
intended.
what is that experience? What has that experience been like?
I feel like I have this incredible support from the automotive industry. I think there was definitely a lot of having to prove myself in the beginning. Um, And still to this day, I feel that I have to work twice as hard to get half the respect. um, but in terms of the brands that I work with, I'm very selective with the people that I work with. I don't just take anything that comes my way, because I also want to make sure that the people I'm working with are people that I can confidently go to my audience and say, I run these products because they're the best. This is why I like them. And they're also an incredible team that I could call family, because family is so important to me in this day and age, and especially in this space. Um, so as I grow, there's definitely tons of outreach, but I stay authentic to the people that I work with. And fortunately, uh, this space is so supportive, and sure, male dominated, but a lot of these guys are also girl dads, and they want to see women succeed because they
Mm-hmm.
want their daughters to get into cars as well. And if it's a more um, neutral, equal playing zone, then hopefully it's a better world for everyone.
I mean, what does your team look like that you do all of this with? Do you have the same mechanics and artists and people that you work with, or does it change all the time, or what does that team look like?
So right now, I'm the only full time person. I have an editor who, after I edited the first, I think it was 250 YouTube episodes, he took over, and he's been such a blessing. One of my good friends, um, who I met in the vlog process, Sandy, who's become one of my closest friends as well. He works part time to help with the builds, to help with the
Mhm.
progress. When it comes to YouTube, there's kind of this unrealistic progress that needs to happen because people want to see things done quickly and fast. And him coming on has really been able to help with that. Um, and I have a fulfillment center that helps with my apparel. Of course, I have an incredible team at CAA and 360 that helps with the acting front. But
Mhm.
in terms of at the shop, one of my closest friends, Sean's, helps with um, operations, and we're a really small family. And I just brought my cousin on who helps part time as well, just keeping the shop organized. But we're really small, and we're just passionate about what we do. And fortunately, they go along with a lot of my crazy ideas, and it works. I hope to one day be able to just have everyone on full time and we get to just have fun because life is so short. But I'm still working towards that right now.
That's amazing. Yeah, I can't imagine you doing all of this. And there's so many, the whatever the automotive network or whatever it is, Moto Network is on at my house all the time, where they're watching the rebuilding of all of the cars and all that. And they do. They seem like they just have huge, 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 teams of people doing that. That's so
And the
cool that
builds
you will
happen
still.
fast. In like one episode, a build will
I
be done
know, right? And it's like, I wonder how long that really takes. But
in a
you
long
doing
time.
that yourself, yeah, and having that, I know it takes my family 6 weeks to get the oil changed. They're have it out there in the driveway for so long.
This
But
Camaro
that's
that I'm
so cool.
doing, sorry to jump in. This Camaro that I'm doing right now was supposed to be a 4-day build. Uh, we started the build in October.
4 days? That's
I
crazy. I don't know anything about cars,
know,
and that sounds
I
crazy
know.
to me.
It was one of those things, like when so it's like doing a house, it's one of the while you're in there things, and then
Right, right.
one thing turned into another, which turned into another, and then here we are. It's February, and the car is almost done. Almost done.
So with the tracks that we were talking about before that are behind you, what have you driven on, and what is your dream to drive on? I
So
don't think we've ever asked that question, Renee, of anyone. What's your dream car track?
So Monaco, I would love to drive. I have driven Laguna Seca, Spa, and Nürburgring. A couple of the others is Hungaroring, which is where we shot Gran Turismo. Uh,
Uh-huh.
Suzuka Circuit is another one. And then I've been on Indianapolis Motor Speedway, IMS. Living in Indiana, I had to have that up there. I haven't
Yeah.
actually driven it, and then there's also Coda and Monza, so it kind of tracks
Did
all
you
over.
guys really go to Le Mans for Gran Turismo?
It took place in Le Mans. I went for the 100th anniversary. I haven't raced on it. I did ride a bike
Okay.
on it to get to like feel it, and I raced it on my sim. But we actually shot most everything at Hungaroring, minus a couple of the tracks
Oh,
like
okay.
Red Bull Ring and stuff like that. But yeah, they did a really good job at making it look like Le Mans. Like when I was there the day that they changed from the academy to the final race of
Uh-huh.
filming, I stepped on set and I was like, "Whoa, like am I in France right now?" Like it looked identical. It's crazy what they're able to do.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I know we're almost out of time. It's been so nice meeting you, and
Thank
this has been a fascinating conversation. Oh my
you.
gosh.
Thank you. Oh my God, time flew so fast.
I know, right? I like, oh my God, we're already almost out of time. I just have one last question. If
Sure.
with I know you probably I don't know if you have any downtime, but we'd love to hear we love for our listeners to hear like what you're reading, what you're watching, what you're enjoying when you do take your downtime.
I love reading. I just got another book. I was just looking for it, but I think it's on my bedside table. Um, I just started it. I think it was called "Don't Believe Everything You Think," um, which
Interesting.
yeah, which it's I'm literally just a couple pages in. I just started this book, but so far I'm like hooked on it, and basically talking about how your mind is so powerful and it gives an example of you can be sitting in a room with your friends watching TV and you can be in a bad mood, but they could be in a great mood. And why is it that everyone, like you're there in the present, why wouldn't you be in a great mood too? It's like, well, you might be thinking something negative, which is going to bring your energy down. So if you, I'm guessing the book is going to talk about how you are what you think. So don't believe the negative things that your subconscious might want to keep bringing up. I don't know. I just started it. I'm really excited about it. So
Interesting.
that's what I'm reading. So when you said that, I got excited to share that book. And I think you asked what else I like to do outside.
Yeah,
Uh,
if there's other things you're watching or anything that you like to do when
Guilty
you're kind of
pleasures.
oh
yeah.
God. Okay. I have a guilty pleasure. It's The Bachelor.
That's a good one.
That's my guilty pleasure. I love snowboarding and action sports in general. I love rock climbing, surfing, all of that. My friends say I'm adrenaline junkie. Um, but yeah, I love
It
my
probably
dog.
has to be in your blood a little bit to be into cars, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I have a little Shiba Inu who I take with me everywhere too, and she's the sweetest.
Oh, that's so cute. Well, Amelia, thank you so much for
Thank you so much.
joining us.
It's
It's
a
so
pleasure.
nice to meet you. This has been such a just
Aw,
a fascinating conversation.
thank you so much. I really appreciate having me on and taking the time and getting to have this great conversation.
If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe and leave a review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. To stay up to date with In Her Words, join the conversation by following Women in Entertainment on our social channels and subscribe to our weekly newsletter at womeninentertainment.com.